The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a movie that is very well known for being very violent. It even was banned in several countries when it released. But that's actually just a bad reputation. When I saw the movie for the first time, I was actually surprised. It had this big reputation that it's very violent, very bloody, very gory. But when I sat down and watched it, it was not that bad at all. The movie is suspenseful and very suggestive in its imagery. Instead of showing you the violence straight on, it implies it. Not that there isn't any gore at all, there are scenes with gore, but it's short. And definitely not to the extent that the title of the movie suggests, or its reputation suggests. And that is actually funny because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is seen as one of the most violent and gory movies of all time, but it's not that gory. I guess in the 70s, just implying a lot of gore was shocking. But the movie itself is a staple in horror. It sets the standard for a lot of things that would come later. The movie was directed by Tobe Hooper, and it was also written by him. He got the idea from standing in a queue in a store and fantasizing about how he would get rid of the queue so that he can buy his stuff. Yeah, basically fantasizing about going through the queue with a chainsaw. And he was also inspired by the real-life case of Ed Gein. So basically the frustration of Christmas shopping and the real-life case of a real actual serial killer was the ground concepts of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that is creativity, because realizing those two ideas and writing it and making it one of the best horror movies ever is very commendable. Hooper wanted the movie to enter the viewer's mind like music, bypassing logic and entering raw emotion. Kim Henkel, of course, helped write the script, and it was shot on a low budget between $80,000 and $140,000 with unknown actors, and he approached it with guerrilla-styled filmmaking. No stunt doubles or safety protocols, actors that were not in the union, while at the same time having huge ambitions, and also a lot of risks. Like for example, the blood often being real blood from minor injuries on set. And all of the locations were real locations, no sets. The story is quite tropey today. A group of teenagers going on a road trip, and then some very bad stuff happen. It's been done a lot by now, but it has also been over 50 years since it released. It was one of the first movies to do this, and the reason why it still holds up today is because it basically defined what a slasher should be, or I should say it laid down a lot of ground rules for the modern slasher. The masked killer, for example, even though it was used before in movies, the killer never wore a mask made of human skin. And it was definitely not done with this level of craftsmanship. The strong script, the set design, the cinematography by Daniel Pearl, the unknown actors, all add to the realism that's rarely seen in this type of movie and this genre. And it all works in the movie's favor because once you see it, it's unforgettable. The story is simple. A group of teens are on a road trip and they pick up a hitchhiker despite not being sure about it. The hitchhiker proceeds to talk about his family that used to work at the old slaughterhouse. He borrows one of the teenagers' pocket knife and proceeds to cut himself. Then he takes a Polaroid picture of the group and demands money for it. When they refuse to pay, he attacks one of them with a straight razor, and the group forces him out of the van, shocked by what's happened. But these strange events don't stop there. It turns out that it will be a very long day for this group of teenagers. And that's where the actual story starts and all the chaos happens. And what the movie manages to do is that it all feels very random. Them discovering this family, them discovering Leatherface. It feels very realistic. It feels like a real attack. It feels like it all just happens to them just because they came to the area. There's no clear motive here besides just being crazy and being psycho and wanting to kill. Oh, and also that the Sawyer family are cannibals. Oh, and also you can't go without mentioning the most memorable character in this movie. Baba Sawyer, aka Leatherface, played by Gunnar Hansen. Gunnar Hansen had recently moved to the US from Iceland, but in 1973 he had finished graduate school and had heard about a low-budget movie being filmed locally and decided to try out for a part despite not being a trained actor. After an interview with Toby Hooper and Kim Henkel, Hansen was cast as Leatherface. And this to me has to be one of the best performances in horror, despite him wearing a mask most of the time. Well, all the time. Leatherface is one of the most creepiest slasher icons ever created. Very complex emotional behavior, a character that's basically very instinctive in what he does. And he doesn't talk, he just reacts to things and makes some weird sounds. Of course, the character is different depending on which movie you are watching. Because with each sequel, when this became a franchise, they kind of reinvent the lore and the continuity. So I'm just going from how Leatherface was portrayed in the first original movie. And Gunnar Hansen was perfect for the role, with his physical acting and physical presence. Edwin Neal as Nubbins Sawyer also gives a great performance in this movie, a very unhinged performance, and one of the more unsettling characters in this movie alongside with Leatherface. Actually, in the opening scene, which is one of the most creepy opening scenes in horror, I think, with the flashes and the decomposing bodies being photographed in close-up, and the scene ends with a corpse that has been posed atop a gravestone, has a very creepy tableau. That scene I always took as that the grave robbing was done by Nubbins, and I also think that it is supposed to be that for a fact. In which case that makes Nubbins a very creepy character alongside being a cannibal and all, and a killer. Drayton Sawyer, however, played by Jim Sido, he is creepy in a totally different way. He just acts like this nice granddad, but at the same time he is doing all these killings. But he's not killing anyone himself. He actually despises killing, and lets Baba and the Nubbins handle that instead. But he's not actually the grandpa of the family. There is a character here called Grandpa Sawyer. He doesn't really do much, but he is creepy in the way he looks and how the character is used here. I won't spoil that if you by any chance have not seen this movie. Then we of course have Sally Hardesty, played by Marilyn Burns. Sally Hardesty is basically, like I said, the first final girl in this kind of execution. The blueprint of the modern final girl. And when it comes to her performance, she is great here. It's just that the character is very thinly written. But that goes for all the characters in the movie. Also, one other weakness I would say about this movie is that it takes a while to get going. Nothing really happens for the first 20-30 minutes or so. Nothing moves the story along. We do hang out with the characters, but they are not well written, so we don't get to know them that well. And I do get it, it's setting the mood, but you still have to have things happen, move the story along or develop the characters. But the first 20 to 30 minutes don't do any of that. Sure, the movie has a commentary on post-Vietnam disillusionment, American consumerism, and rural decay, all wrapped up in a visceral horror experience. But I do feel it should have been anchored with characters you care for, characters that have goals, characters that develop throughout the movie. But we just don't get that here. All in all, I do think that Tobe Hooper will be remembered as a director that defined what horror is in a very innovative way. And the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre will remain one of the biggest staples in horror, and a movie that I will be rewatching many times. Tomorrow is Halloween, and I want to wish everyone a very happy Halloween. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Also, don't forget to smash the bell icon so that you don't miss any of my future videos. I have made a bit more videos this month than my usual schedule. That is one video every 2 weeks. I will be going back to that schedule after this video. This has been Phantom Frame. Thank you for watching.